Hello. Today I'm having uh, one dish by itself and then another dish that is on top of rice. The first dish I'm having is an idea that it never occurred to me to even think of when I lived in America, which is cooked pickled cucumbers. So in America, we have pickled cucumbers, like pickles. We just call them pickles, but we don't. If they're usually eaten cold, or maybe like you cut them, you might cut them up. Preparation, you might cut them up and put them on a sandwich or something, or cut them up. You might put them in a salad, chopped up as something. But I've never heard of someone cooking them. But in China, they have this dish that's actually really good. That is like julienne or strips, basically cut pickled cucumber cut into strips and stir fried with strips of meat. So this is strips of pork. Um, Typically, it's done with pork. Occasionally, you might see it done with chicken or with beef, but generally with pork. And it's just it's usually the pickles they use tend to be a little bit sweet. They're not quite like so. In America, I know sort of pickled cucumbers tend to be a very the common type is like dill pickles or whatever, like sour pickles. Um, these are a little sour, but they're also kind of a little bit sweet. They're like a sweet. That's the general kind of pickles you find here. They're usually small little gherkin pickles that have been the the pickling solution is both sour and sweet, so they'll have a little bit of sweetness to them. Um, and So they just chop those up. These are just straight pickles that have been chopped up into little like strips, and then they cut the meat up the same way, and you stir fry them together. And if you had told me there's a dish that has like hot pickled cucumbers in it, I would have like before I ate this, I would just like immediately assume it was a bad idea. But it actually the flavors go together really well. The juice from the meat kind of combines with the juice from the pickles and turns into a pretty nice sauce that it kind of coats them. I think they do often put in a little bit of like cornstarch just to sort of thicken it up, and it's probably got maybe like some soy or some cooking wine or something thrown into. Like I think they do put some seasoning to make a sauce, but most of the sauce just comes from the meat juice mixed with the cucumber juice. This version, my preference is just those two things mixed together with nothing else in it. And that's a pretty common way to get it. Occasionally, you'll get it from a restaurant, and they'll also add other things like maybe carrots or sometimes they'll add onion. Occasionally, you might see it with some green pepper added in, or even some like tree or mushroom. So there's lots of variations on like sort of what you like other additional things you might add in, but the basic dish is just pickled cucumbers and strips of pork. I have also seen it done where they did not cut the cucumber into strips like this. They cut it into more like medallion. They took the cucumber and cut it on an angle like this, so you get kind of oval shaped medallions of cucumber, and then the pork was pretty similar to this, although perhaps when they do it that way they might chop the strips a little shorter so they're more like shorter bits. But they cook it the same way. It tastes the same. It's just like chopped up a little differently. So that's called pickle, or not, I should say cucumber first. Cucumber in Chinese is called huanghua, or yellow melon. So anytime something has a cucumber in it, it's called huanghua. Many things that are pickled, not all of them. There are several other words you use for pickles, but one of the standard words for pickle is the same word that means sour and acid, swan. So pickled cucumber is called酸黄瓜. So it's vinegar cucumber or sour cucumber basically. So this is the in here it's called 酸黄瓜, and then stir frying, that style of cooking, is called chow. And so you often have in the Chinese name of something, it'll be sort of written as like something stir fried with something. So it'll be something chow something. And those are the two ingredients go on either side of this word, and it joins them together and says you've stir fried them together. So in this case, it's 酸黄瓜炒肉丝, or sometimes they just say 炒肉. So ro is meat, and then 肉丝 is strips of meat. So like it might be 酸黄瓜炒肉, or sometimes 酸黄瓜炒肉丝. And then if they add something else in, they often will just leave the name the same. They don't tell you they put other stuff in. So it can be a bit of a toss-up when you order it at a restaurant, unless you ask them like what all they put in it. Whether they might put some tree ear mushroom, which is called mu'er. They might put some onion, yangcong. Carrot's a pretty popular additional thing to put into it. Hulu bowl. Then the second dish that I've gotten here is this one's a bit of a controversial thing because it's a type of curry. However, people from places where they have curries, like Thailand and India and places like where curry is a big thing, tend to look at this and be like, that's not a curry. But what I would say is it is a variation on curry, and I would call this the Chinese variation. It's a yellow curry that's loosely based on like some Thai yellow curries. However, the flavors are not really the same. It does have like curry paste in it, so like it does have a very small hint of a curry flavor, but for the most part, it's more of just a salty, savory kind of thing. It doesn't have like, when you have, most curries tend to be like a huge like bomb of flavor. This is not really that. This does not have all those flavors in it, but it still tastes to me, it tastes quite good. If you think of it as like a stew with a bit of a curry flavor in it, is what it more tastes like. It tends to be like like a stew. It'll usually have potatoes, carrots, onion, and then some kind of meat. Just chunks of sometimes it'll be beef, sometimes pork, sometimes chicken. They put all kinds of meat in it. This one, that's not. Well, I don't have the receipt here, so I don't remember if they said they put I'm pretty sure that this is pork that's in it, in this one. And then it's got this kind of a yellowish sauce, it's mostly just like beef stock or chicken stock. That's the main flavor you get, is just like, beef stew flavor. And then there's a little bit of curry flavor added in as well. And then that sauce is kind of thickened up. And in this case, I've got it on top of rice. And it's often served on rice. Like a lot of restaurants that do, dishes like this one, where you can buy a whole bunch of dishes, and then you can also buy rice on the side. They'll also have a option that's called gai fan. So fan means rice and gai means on top of. So often as a cheaper version, so I just bought this as a dish, right, by itself. As a cheaper version, you can often buy, they'll just put a little bit less and they'll put that on top of a bed of rice. And that's good for people that if you're ordering it like as a quick lunch or like, if you don't want all these dishes, you just want a little bit of stuff on rice. You can order something gai fan. However, there are certain dishes that tend to not be, so like the restaurant that was selling this, you cannot buy this curry by itself. The option is curry like on rice. So there was no option for just curry by itself. You have to buy it on the rice. Whereas like this dish, like you could get it on rice or not on rice. It's kind of a and I'm sure if you went into the restaurant and talked to them and asked, can I do this? They would do that. But I'm talking about in terms of what they put on their menu, what's like actually written on the menu. And I think that's because this is often thought of as something that's like a stew that goes on rice. To me, this is kind of reminds me of like pot roast back home. The sauce is very similar flavor, but then with like a little hint of, if you took one of those little cubes of curry powder that you can get, or curry paste or whatever, if you took a little bit of that, that's basically what this is. It's a pot roast that's had a bit of curry powder thrown into it. To me, that tastes really good. Where the controversy comes from is when you get folks that are from places that do like authentic curry or whatever, like, where that's the specialty food of their area. They're looking at this going like, that, why are you calling this curry? That's not a real curry. And in that sense, it's not, but it is a dish, an original dish. It's very different than any other curry I've ever had. So I call this Chinese yellow curry. I don't know that there's an official name for it, but it's usually called, in Chinese, curry is gali, which is just a sound translation. They didn't get the sounds quite right, but they call it gali. And oftentimes this is called huang, which is yellow, huang gali. So yellow curry, or huang se, yellow colored. But oftentimes it's just called gali. So like gali neuro would be curry beef. This one I think was just called gali gai fan. I've forgotten what it was listed as on the menu, to be honest. But it was just like, it's got chunks of potato. That's the main thing. Sometimes they'll put turnip in it as well. That's a pretty common, thing here, as well as carrot, bits of carrot. And then this has kind of just small bits of meat. Sometimes it'll be with like big chunks, very similar to like a pot roast, where it'll just be big chunks of meat that have been kind of torn apart. It's summer now, so this is a little odd. This is a very good like winter dish. It's super like hearty and warming, but it's not. It doesn't like it's fine to eat it in the summer too. Like it's not also. It's hard in right now. It's May. This video will probably come out in June, but like it's not that hot here. It's very like kind of comfortable temperatures these days. So, this is, it's not bothersome. It doesn't feel like it's overwarming or something. It's just tastes hearty and filling and delicious. So that's kind of my two dishes that I got here. This is called gali gaifan, so curry on rice, and then the other thing was酸黄瓜炒肉, pickled cucumbers stir fried with pork. So thanks for watching.